So in the last presentation I did on safe pressure smokeless 5070 for your early trapdoor Springfield, I was using Trail Boss powder. And I got a bunch of comments from folks that said things like, well, thanks for the information, but Hodgdon doesn't make Trail Boss anymore and I don't have any. So thanks, but I can't really do much with the information. Okay, I understand. Not everybody has a cache of all different kinds of smokeless and black powder. I get it. So I'll show you two more loads that are safe pressure smokeless for 5070, and they're using powders that are readily available even today. Now, I suppose I could just cut right to the chase and tell you that the two different loads that we're dealing with here, one is 10 grains of unique, the other is 22 grains of accurate 5744. Same projectile, Lee, 450 grain lube with the ALOX stuff, which actually worked out pretty well. Now, in the last video, a few people asked me, where did you get this data for the 9.5 grains of Trail Boss? Where did you get that? Because no one's allowed to make stuff up by themselves. You know, you have to come up with it. You know, it has to come from a book or some kind of reputable source, which is fine, understandable. And I answered them, and what that was is that came from Handloader magazine. Now, I've been a subscriber to Handloader magazine for a long, long time, and I've never had a problem. Never lost a firearm, never had a catastrophic failure. But people still, it's like if it doesn't come from a book, they won't go for it. And if you're one of those folks, that's fine. Again, you certainly don't have to. Now, I'm telling you all of this because according to this particular book, let's see, this is Lyman 4th edition, I think. Yep. These loads I'm going to tell you about, they have a disclaimer that says that it shouldn't be used in an antique black powder cartridge firearm. Well, here, I'll show you. Okay, so for example, 5070 government, and it says right here, this data should only be used for newly manufactured replica rifles approved for the use of smokeless powder. This data is not for use in antique firearms originally designed for black powder. Okay, well, fair enough. Now, if you look at the data here, they have a 425 and a 515 grain projectile, neither of which are the ones we're using. We're using a 450 grain Lee. But if you look at the data here, they have Trail Boss listed, 8.5 to start, 10.5 max. And you see the max pressure here on this page is 18,000 CUP. None of these loads exceed 18,000 CUP. Now, if we come over here to the 4570 government, that's 73 Springfield Trapdoor safe pressures, it says right here that none of this data exceeds 18,000 CUP for 4570, which is safe in the 1873 Springfield Trapdoors and up. A lot of people think that they see a Trapdoor Springfield and they just assume that it's a 73, but that's a whole nother story. And again, none of these on this page exceed 18,000 CUP. Now, if we look over here, 450 grain Lee bullet, unique is not listed with these, but that's okay. 5744 is. Now, 26.5 grains of 5744 should get you almost 1,200 feet per second, and the max pressure is 14,500. Well, being that we have a bigger case, the volume is bigger, the projectile is bigger, with the same load, that should give us slightly less pressure. And since the 68 and 70 Trapdoors are basically the same firearm as an 1873, just chambered in a little bit bigger caliber, I really don't see why 18,000 CUP would be an issue. I suppose you could make the argument if you had the early 66 Allen conversion or even the earlier 68s that were still converted muskets. Maybe you could be a little bit more cautious, but as far as the way I look at it goes, 18,000 CUP for both the 5070 Trapdoor and the 1873 and up Trapdoor is probably going to be just fine. Now, again, that's just my opinion for my firearm and the caliber that I'm using. And if you have a different opinion and you think this is too scary, that's fine. I understand. I don't typically like to even discuss this stuff out here on the interweb because generally all I get is hammered with angry comments about the subject. But we're going to risk it all today. So here we have 22 grains of accurate 5744 weighed out, and I typically weigh all of my charges when I'm doing tests like these. I know sometimes folks will like to use a dipper, but I like to weigh them, especially for doing tests. Once I get something dialed and I can use a dipper and it works okay, then I'll do that. But when I'm developing loads, I always weigh my charges. 450 grain lead projectile, just like last time. Seated, crimped, and done. Okay, so this is 10 grains of unique with the same 450 grain lead projectile. $9.39. $9.44. $9.06. $9.58. $9.37 or $9.31. Find out in a minute. So those are good for 100 feet more than the Trail Boss loads. All right, so these are our unique loads. $357, that won't fit in there. Well, those are easy. Not even too dirty. Somebody left me a comment and they said unique was much like flammable dirt. All right, and these are 22 grains of 5744 accurate. $9.68. $1,054. Interesting. $9.76. I've noticed this was accurate. Seems to usually have a really wide spread. $9.83. $9.97. And now we'll try our accurate 5744. Much dirtier than the unique. Couldn't tell if that was high or low or what. There we go. I think it was a little low.
Yeah, not nearly as clean as the Unique. That's unusual.
All right, so let's see how we did. The Trail Boss loads from last time averaged 832 feet per second, had a max spread of 22. 10 grains of Unique averaged 935 feet per second with a max spread of 52, so it's a good solid 100 feet per second gain. The 22 grains of 5744 averaged 995 with a wider spread of 86. But again, I've seen that. It's pretty common for 5744, at least in the loads I've tried it. It generally has a wider spread. Doesn't perform bad, just a little wider. And then finally, the 70 grains of our homemade 1F balsa averaged 1193 with a spread of 39. And still pretty accurate, just hits a lot higher than all of the other loads. Still shoots fine. I'm sorry I don't have any footage at shooting at the 180-yard target. We did do that, and they all shot fine, but we had a camera malfunction, which happens sometimes. So you'll have to take my word for it. The only difference really with the 5744 and the 1F balsa is where I have to hold to hit that target. The 5744, I was using the flip up sight set all the way down, but I'm still having to hold underneath it just a little bit, so they just hit a little bit higher. Same with the full power black powder load. Again, this shows that generally the full power black powder load will outperform velocity wise most of the safe pressure smokeless stuff out there. Again, there's a lot of loads and a lot of calibers, and I don't know all of them, but generally with the stuff I've tried, that's mostly what I've seen. Also, I'm going to say it one more time. These are all safe pressure loads. I know plenty of people, and I've talked to plenty of people that have used these same loads here, not counting the black powder one, of course. They haven't had any trouble either. In fact, with Accurate 5744, I talked to a couple, 3 different people that use 24 and 25 grains and get about 1,050 feet per second in their early trapdoors, and they don't have any trouble. But like I said last time, if you're one of those people that is looking at this going, I would never try that in my trapdoor, that's fine. You most certainly don't have to. But for us folks that are a little bit more adventurous, this stuff works fine for 5070. So, as usual, folks, if you thought this video didn't suck, do me a favor and hit the like button. Consider subscribing. And if you did think it sucked, well, then go make your own damn video.